Hey there, biology guys and gals. It's Mr. Williams, and this is a real quick, hopefully, fingers crossed, real quick review over what we've covered so far in Unit 4, Chapter 5.1 over energy and living systems. I've got my Wacom tablet here, okay, this new little thing that allows me to kind of annotate on the desktop, so it's like a miniature smartboard tapped into my computer, and I got this pen. Now, I'm getting used to using this, so you have to bear with me as we go through this video here. But I'm going to try to use some new stuff here, so again, bear with me. But let's get to it. We started off class asking what are some basic things, all right, entities, items, materials, substances that you, as a living organism, something that's, you know, got all of those characteristics of life, what do you need to live, to sustain life, to stay alive, to keep kicking? Things needed to survive, to sustain life. We talked about those, okay? One of the basic ones we mentioned was water, all right? So a little H2O. We also talked that you're going to need some space, all right? You're going to need an area to live, a habitat, if you will. You're also going to be interested in reproducing, okay? You're also going to be interested in reproducing or making more of your species so your species can continue to survive and, again, move from generation to generation to generation. And last but not least, the big one that we talked about, you need energy. You need energy, and typically we get energy, or we refer to getting energy in the form of food, okay? You're constantly feeding yourselves, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All right, you need something for breakfast, something for lunch, something for dinner, something to sustain your body's activity. All right, we group a lot of organisms into two major groupings based upon their energy consumption or how they obtain energy to sustain their organismic functions. All right, we've got ourselves some heterotrophs. And we've also got ourselves some autotrophs. First up here, the old heterotrophs. And I'm putting heterotrophs here under this picture of this chimpanzee because heterotrophs are typically animals. Now in class we also talked about how they can be some forms of bacteria and some protists. But the classic example of heterotrophs is indeed an animal from the animal kingdom. The other thing we looked at were autotrophs, the self-feeders, if you will. Autotrophs, and using green because green is a popular color that we equate with plants. And plants are the fantastic example of an autotrophic organism. So, everybody is always interested in getting food or energy to sustain their life. We have two major groupings based upon this, this constant pursuit for energy, heterotrophs and autotrophs. The heterotrophs being organisms that cannot create their own food. They must consume it from some other source. And autotrophs being organisms that can actually absorb sunlight or absorb some type of chemical, inorganic substance, and generate their own food source. Now, this food source we speak of, what type of energy is it? Well, it's chemical energy. And we move on to the next page for that here. Page number 2. Chemical energy. Chemical energy is actually this guy right here. These are both examples of glucose molecules. Glucose is an interesting little chemical compound. It's composed of carbon, so it's organic. But it is the simplest stored chemical energy unit. It's what both plants, autotrophs, and animals, heterotrophs, are interested in obtaining to fuel their cells. So we constantly say that we need food to fuel the body. Okay? Food to fuel the body. Well, we're looking for glucose to help fuel the cell. Because really the food you're bringing in is being broken down, digested, and broken down into smaller units that then can be transferred into cell fuel, known as ATP, and fuel your cellular activity. help all those specialized little organelles inside of your cells, the trillions of them that are in your body, do their jobs, okay? So food helps fuel the body. It's actually ATP that helps fuel the cell. And that ATP comes from this guy right here, glucose, okay? ATP comes from glucose. So ATP is an immediately usable form of chemical energy. Glucose is a stored form of chemical energy. The energy that's present within chemical energy, well, it is present within the, if you remember in from class, bonds. It's present within the bonds. So the bonds that are between these molecules right here, that's where the energy is. The bonds that are between these molecules right here, that's where the energy is. There is a form of energy there holding those elements in these compounds and molecules together. Okay? Energy is absorbed when bonds are created. Energy is released when bonds are destroyed. The example we had in class was a little bit of a old red rover, which we see down here in this picture, where we've got these arms being linked here between these two individuals. They're expending some energy right now. They've got energy placed inside of this bond. This little girl right here may come running right over trying to break this thing. And if she breaks their arm, she's breaking the bond and energy is being released. All right? So, red rover, kind of a way to also think about chemical energy. The last thing some of us talked about, I know we talked about it in 2 of the classes, didn't really get to it in White Day biology, but we started to get into photosynthesis just a little bit, okay? We started to get into photosynthesis just a little bit. All right? And we mainly talked about photosynthesis because we wanted to describe how the sun, that real bright star that's out in the daytime, helps to illuminate the moon at night, okay? The sun is the main source. The sun is the main source for all energy on planet Earth. The sun is the main source for all energy on planet Earth. So this helps us to kind of differentiate between autotrophs and heterotrophs again. Being a heterotroph, an animal, you and I, we cannot go out and just absorb the energy being radiated off of the sun and generate our own chemical energy to fuel our cells. We can't do that. Plants can, though. All right? Plants can. This little guy right here, we'll draw this pretty little flower. Oh, oh. Plants can, though. So something like this little flower right here actually can do a very good job of absorbing the energy given off from the sun. Now the sun gives off a few different forms of energy, but the one that we're going to study here in this unit is light energy, solar energy. Well, this plant right here, this flower, and other plants like big old maple trees, sycamore trees, red cedar trees, they do a good job of absorbing this sunlight. Their leaves, as we talked about in class, are jam-packed and full of chloroplasts, that specialized organelle that's got that green pigment known as chlorophyll present in them. Well, these little chloroplasts are located inside the leaves. And it's those chloroplasts that kind of act as like little cells inside of a solar panel. So the leaf itself is kind of like a little solar panel. And the chloroplasts are like the little cells, the photovoltaic cells that are inside of that solar panel. So the leaves actually absorb the light energy. So photosynthesis, in turn, kind of becomes this process of basically taking light energy from the sun and converting it to chemical energy. Now, next class period, we'll get into some of the main details, major details about photosynthesis. We're going to try to clear up this process a little bit because I'm going to refer to several different types of chemical energy. Stored chemical energy, temporary chemical energy, immediately consumable chemical energy. And we have specific examples for each one of those types of chemical energy. The main thing that we need to know from this first section is that energy is constantly being pursued by all living organisms. There's two major groups of those organisms pursuing energy, the heterotrophs and the autotrophs. Heterotrophs have to find it from a different source. Autotrophs can do photosynthesis, where they actually can absorb that light energy, right? They can actually absorb that light energy and transfer it into chemical energy, which is what we are all pursuing. We need chemical energy found in food to fuel our body, and that chemical energy is actually converted into ATP, cell fuel, to fuel our cellular activity. And if we remember from Unit 3, we're composed of one or more cells, all right, being a living organism. Okay, cells are the basic unit of structure and function in all living organisms. Yeah, part of that cell theory thing, okay? So that's a little bit of a review here from 5.1. If you have any other questions, email me, tweet me, ask me in class. See you later.